Opportunity Knocks by nikkiRA. Chapter 9. He's a little early. It's barely 10, so he sits down on the edge of a potted plant and takes a breath. He doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to rank the guys in camp and force himself to have feelings for them. Nico doesn't know a whole lot about love, but he knows that's not how it works. If it was, he would have spent 4 years of his life. If it was, he wouldn't have spent 4 years of his life pining after Percy Jackson. If Will isn't interested, that's fine. Not really, but he'll manage. But there's no way he's going to be able to just force himself to get over him. That's not how it works. It took him ages to even realise he had feelings for Will, and now he's supposed to do that all over with another person in 24 hours? That's not how feelings worked. And Aphrodite had to know that. He thinks back to what Piper had said about someone else in camp possibly having feelings for him. He didn't really think that was a possibility, but to be fair, that might just be his recently rejected self-esteem talking. Maybe Aphrodite was trying to push him towards whoever that was, if indeed he even existed. He remembers what she had said. She had called him slippery. He thinks about all the effort he had put in trying to run away, and thinks he probably knows what she was talking about. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do any of it. But he has learned over the years that the gods don't really put much store into what you didn't want to do. If they did, he would probably still be in the casino with Bianca, and he wouldn't have had to deal with any of this, with Percy Jackson or Will Solis, or 2 wars, or almost killing himself to cross the world with a giant statue. Bianca would still be here. Honestly, it's enough to almost make him want to go back to the Lotus. But Aphrodite would still be able to get him, and he's not really willing to give up his consciousness and slip into a video game-filled haze, forgetting everything else. And anyways, he thinks, it's not like everything that happened to him after he left the casino had been bad. He had Hazel now, for one, not to mention his half-best friend / half-mother figure, Jason. He could finally look Percy in the eye now, and he thinks Leo has finally stopped being afraid of him. Mostly, at least. Every other Saturday, he went to New Rome to play Mythomagic with Frank, and regardless of everything else, Will was a good friend. There's the shriek, and Nico springs up. It's basically the same script. Nico kills the Cyclops, Billy stares in wonder at his sword, and with a little push and a promise to take him back to leave a message for his sister, Billy holds his sword while he holds Billy, shadow travelling right into Jason's cabin, where, sure enough, everyone is still clustered around the chart. "Wow!" Billy exclaims when they emerge. "Wow," Annabeth mutters. "This is Billy," he says, rather unnecessarily. "Billy, this is Annabeth, Percy, Jason, and Piper." "How did we get here? Was it magic? Can you do magic? Are these your friends? Can they do magic?" Nico sighs and pinches the bridge of his nose. Percy's laughing. "Is that what it's like every day?" Nico nods. "What's that?" Billy asks, looking at the chart on the table. Annabeth gathers it up rather quickly. "Nothing," Nico says firmly. "Come on, Billy. You have to meet Chiron." "Who's Chiron?" "It's a long story. Come on." He avoids everyone else's eyes as Annabeth folds up a paper, and eventually they all follow him back outside. Billy is still holding his sword. Nico doesn't bother to ask for it back. They are nearing the big house when Will shows up. "I was wondering who you were," he says. Nico can feel everyone looking at him, which might be a little obvious, not to mention very annoying. Luckily, Will is preoccupied by Billy. "Why is there a small child holding your sword?" "I'm not that small," Billy shouts back defensively. Will's eyebrows shoot up and he stares at Nico, who just shrugs. Long story. "Where did he come from?" Nico looks at Billy. "Where are you from, kid?" "Brooklyn." He looks up at Will. He's from Brooklyn. That's not what I meant and you know it. I found him, Bill, okay? I have to go find Chiron. He walks past him into the big house. Billy turns around to look back. Who's that? That's Will. He looks mad at you. Nico smirks. He probably is. Chiron is in full horse form when Nico finds him, which he had completely forgotten about. So distracted about the situation to remember that a young child who had just faced death at the hands of a monster probably wouldn't be able to distinguish between bad monsters and, well, Chiron. Billy's first instinct, luckily, isn't to use the sword that he is still holding, but instead to hide behind Nico, like he did when Raina was yelling. Is he like the other one? Billy whispers. At first, it's hard for him to understand how Chiron could look even remotely threatening. He looks like an old history professor, even when he was literally half fucking horse. But he supposes when you've grown up under the belief that anything that didn't look human was probably trying to kill you, you're likely to be a little skittish. No, this is Chiron. He's the boss, sort of. Chiron gives him the same look that Will did, before turning his attention to Billy. Hello, what's your name? At Nico's nod, Billy answers him. Nico goes into a quick rundown. Chiron doesn't ask him why he had left camp, although he doesn't look particularly happy about it. And Nico thinks he's probably going to get a talking to later. He has to stay with Billy through the whole process, including the orientation video, which he thinks is really outdated, and that was coming from someone who was himself rather outdated. Chiron tells him the whole spiel about the gods and how his mother was one of them, and that sometime within the next 2 years he'll be claimed. But for now, he'll sleep in the Hermes cabin, who was the god of yada yada yada, etc, etc, etc. And then it's time for Capture the Flag. Billy should technically be playing with the Hermes cabin, but he looks utterly terrified about doing so, and Chiron eventually relents, just for this first time, to let him stay with Nico. Hey, who wins this game? Jason whispers to him as they're sitting up, and he's about to answer when he notices the lack of Percy. Oh. Originally, Annabeth got caught in Percy's prank, and she kicked him off their side, and you and him got the flag. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Despite everything, he's beginning to get a little excited. With Percy on the other side, it's decided that he'll stick with Jason, who will take advantage of the Ares diversion, while Hephaestus' cabin will set up traps around their base to help out the gods. That girl from the Irish cabin, and Billy looks utterly fucking terrified, and Nico wonders when he became such a huge fucking sap. I'll take guard duty with Billy, he says, trying not to sound too torn up over it. Billy looks immensely relieved, and Jason gives him a rueful smile. They all disperse. Billy asks a lot of questions about Capture the Flag, and Nico answers as many of them as possible with one-word answers. Billy looks slightly ridiculous in the armour, and his sword is too big for him, but he had been utterly thrilled when it had been handed to him, as most 10-year-olds were when handed a very sharp, very dangerous object. Silence settles over them, and this is strange enough that Nico knows that means there's probably something bothering him. He looks over. Billy is staring at his sword. What's wrong? I'm just thinking about what Alana would say if she saw me with this. I think she would probably yell at me. She would probably yell at you too. Nico smiles sadly. She kind of sounds like my sister. You have a sister? Nico nods. Her name's Hazel. She lives in California. But I think your sister sounds a lot like my other sister. You have 2 sisters? Nico sighs. Yeah, my other sister was Bianca, but she's dead now. Billy is very quiet. When he looks over, he is staring at the sword again. How did she die? She was killed by a giant robot. And here's the thing, Nico has never said that out loud. Sure, he said, my sister died, or I lost my sister, or my sister died on a quest. But he's never really said that. Never even thought of it, really. But it was true. That's what had happened. Bianca had been crushed by a giant robot. And that, in and of itself, is not even remotely funny. But that, combined with everything else that has ever happened to him, his life was a mess. His life was a fucking mess. It was utterly, utterly ridiculous. And so he starts laughing. He leans back against a tree and he laughs because he's been living the same day over for a week. And he was born in the 30s, but he's only 16 years old, and he spent 50 odd years as a 10-year-old, and his sister was killed by a giant robot. And he can't quite believe that this is his life. Welcome to the life of a demigod, Billy, he says, when he has caught his breath. Nothing makes any goddamn sense. Just before the campfire starts, he asks Piper once again if he could use the shrine in the Aphrodite cabin's bathroom. How did you know it was in the... Oh, you've done this before, I imagine? It is easier now, since most people are outside, but Piper still stands guard. He shuts the bathroom door behind him and tries not to wrinkle his nose at the smell inside. The perfumes probably all smell really good on their own, but all the smells mixed together was an onslaught of stench. He looks at the shrine and takes a deep breath. I don't want to leave anymore. Is that what you wanted me to realize? That there are different kinds of love, and that just because someone doesn't love you the way you wanted them to, doesn't mean they don't love you? That I still have Jason and Rena and Percy and everyone else? All these friends I didn't used to have? That this is where I'm supposed to be? Because I get it. These people are my friends and they love me, and I get it. I won't try to leave again. I don't want to. And if this isn't what you want from me, then I don't know what to do, he sighs. I know you said you weren't going to show up again, but I think I understand. He stares at it for a bit longer before nodding and turning back, but as he turns towards the door, he stops in his tracks. There is writing in the mirror in what looks like lipstick. Not the lesson I intended, but a good one nonetheless. Keep searching, Nico D'Angelo. He resists the urge to trash the bathroom and instead sits down, slumping against the wall. After a few minutes, Piper knocks on the door, and when he doesn't answer, she opens it slowly, carefully. She sees the message on the mirror first, before she sees him, hand pressed into his knees, and then she sinks down next to him. I guess it didn't turn out like you had wanted? Why is she doing this to me? He says, muffled against his knees. Piper touches his arm tentatively. I don't know, Nico, but if whatever you tried today didn't work, I know it's not what you want, but I really do think you should try the ideas we came up with today. I know you don't want to, but maybe if you just appease my mother, she'll let you out of this, and then you can stop. Annabeth still has that list. You should look at it before you go to bed. It'll disappear tomorrow. She's holding me captive and forcing me to do something I don't want to do. What is she going to do if I ever figure it out? Keep the world like this forever? Am I going to age? If I throw myself off a fucking cliff, can she override that too? He doesn't need to look up to know that Piper is looking at him sadly. We'll figure it out, Nico. He is seriously beginning to doubt it. I better go find Annabeth, he mutters. If your mother is so fucking set on me getting over well, I might as well start trying. Nico, she adds, before we can leave. I know this isn't what you want to hear, and I know it doesn't help, but it doesn't make sense to me that he would have rejected you. I can feel feelings. I can sense them, and well, whenever you two are together, I get the same vibe coming off of him as I do from you. She was right. He didn't want to hear this. Maybe you're just defective, McLean, he mutters, before realising that wasn't fair. Sorry, he adds, but if it makes you feel better, you'll forget that I said that tomorrow. You will ask for help again, right? You won't try to do this by yourself? I don't really have a choice, Piper. Obviously, I can't do this alone. She smiles at him. I know this is the kind of obnoxious cliche Jason probably tells you every other day, but you're not alone. We all care about you. This is awkward. Nico has never had this long of a conversation with Piper one-on-one, and definitely never one this touchy. You're right. Jason usually says that to me at least 3 times a week. She laughs and loops her arm through his, which is also awkward, but he would be lying if he said it wasn't nice. He wonders if Piper has the ability to calm people down, or if there's just something about being near her that makes you think she has things under control. Come on, we'll be late for the campfire, she says, dragging him out of the cabin. He sits with her and Jason, Percy and Annabeth. Leo does the usual thing wherever there's a new camper and launches himself into the fire, which Billy, after he's done screaming, finds fascinating. And Leo gestures at him wildly for help a few times during the line of questioning, but Nico smirks and pretends not to see it. They sing that stupid song about Minos again, and Will, from across the fire, noticeably does not sing along to that one, and Nico shoots him a thankful smile. He is smushed between Piper and Jason, who rock him back and forth in tune with the songs, much to his chagrin, but by the end of the night, not even he can keep a smile off his face. I'm sorry I won't remember tomorrow, Jason says to him when it's done and they're heading back to their cabins. Nico shrugs. He had reluctantly spent a great deal of time looking at Annabeth's final list to try and remember the names. He'll try it out, if that's really what Aphrodite wants. Rather that than be stuck doing this day over for the rest of his life. It's fine. You helped a lot today. I'll end up telling you again anyway. Make sure you do. I'll see you this morning, he says, with a clap on the back and a grin. Nico rolls his eyes and heads to bed, removing the light once again, although he knows that his revelation from today wasn't enough for Aphrodite. Oh well, it was enough for him. Hi. I wasn't gonna post. I had today off. I don't know why I'm only recording now. I stayed up way too late and only woke up at 12. But St. Patrick's Day, so I had the day off. Anyway, that was fun. I need to take note of things that happen, but I have no clue what I'm doing. Anyway, that was fun. Thanks for listening, and bye.